This is, have you all been briefed, or are we starting from scratch here? You got a little of it? All right. So let me walk backwards a little. The state of Ohio, the legislature, requires that we maintain a database of state properties. During the Cordray administration, the Boyce administration, they followed the letter of the law and did that, but it was essentially just a list they posted. Was not interactive, was not connected to interactive maps, and was not really in a usable format. It was just the bare minimum by state law. So I asked the question, wearing my hat as a former city councilman and state legislature, knowing that the communities in the state are short on revenue. What can we do to actually take all these properties and instead of just posting them as a list, make them into an interactive database where you can see not only the address but also through Google Maps and other technology you can actually see the property, and we can show these properties to the private sector who might be open to purchasing them, which would generate revenue from the state, or using them, leasing them, what have you. And so as state treasurer, one of my roles, I believe, is to do everything I can to ensure that we have a healthy balance sheet here in the state. And obviously, the legislature and governor should be applauded from going from a $8 billion operating budget deficit to a $500 million surplus. But we're always looking for ways to generate revenue without raising taxes, especially revenue that could be used to fund education and taking care of our seniors, what have you. And it's the same thing at the local level as well. So we think this is a win-win-win. Essentially, we're taking something that the state treasurer's done for a long time, and we've taken it from a third grade level to a PhD level. And we're really taking it to a place that is interactive, usable, not only serves taxpayers well, but also will hopefully end up generating some revenue for the state of Ohio. These properties are owned by or managed by a variety of different state agencies. Some of it's Department of Transportation, some of it's Department of Agriculture, and sort of across a section, it's cross-section of state government. One of the components of this treasurer's office, about which I'm very proud, is how we've leveraged technology. A lot of you have heard me tell the story about the guy who used to drive checks every day from our office here in Columbus to KeyBank in Cleveland just to go deposit checks, where we asked the question, if individual citizens are doing banking on an iPhone or a personal computer, how about state government? And so we eliminated that check driving process. We save taxpayers about $100,000 a year, and there's no concern of people's hard-earned checks flying around some farm in Mansfield. Similarly, this is an application of technology. It's also an application of common sense, and we think it's a win-win-win for taxpayers and for other state agencies. I'm going to allow Seth to walk through a demonstration. I'll be glad to open up to any questions you have. Dustin Colhurst is also here. Dustin is our director of technology, and so as far as the back end and construction of this, he can speak to it as well if you're interested in those details. So Seth, why don't you walk through how it works, and then just open up for questions for you, me, or Dustin.
Great. So as the treasurer mentioned, we had essentially inherited a database. We inherited a responsibility from the legislature to post this data on the treasurer's website. And essentially what that database looked like was a big list of parcels. And I can show you, because we kind of kept a form of that. It would just show the parcel ID number, and it would show the owner of the property and the number of acres. And while that is great information and it's helpful to some, it wasn't the most user-friendly format. In order for somebody to actually figure out what that parcel, more details about that parcel of land, they'd have to type this parcel ID number into a county auditor website, which would then pull up a little bit more information, and you might have to agree to some terms and conditions, and then you can see that information. So what we've decided, and what the treasurer asked was, is there a way to do this better? Can we do this better? And can we take all of the information that we have, which is enough that we could essentially put it up on something like Google Maps and do that? And so we started asking that question, and we asked the people at OGRIP, which is the Ohio Geographically Referenced Information Program. It's a state entity under the Department of Administrative Services. And we said, hey, could we just plug all this database that we have into Google Maps? And they said, well, we could, but we have a better way to do it. And they said, we have better maps. We have stuff that we have, geographic images that we have taken through a project that we are running that would actually be more comprehensive and better than what is being provided by Google. And we said, well, let's do that. And so that is essentially how we came up with what we have today. And so essentially this is the interactive map. And you can get to this just from the home page of our website. And you can zoom in, and as you zoom in, you start to see a little bit more detail. The red dots are state-owned buildings. The black dots are state-leased buildings. And then these green codes indicate which agency owns some of the properties. So there's a lot of green. That is the Department of Natural Resources. There's some blue. That would be the Department of Transportation, and so on. And so we've also made it so that you can search this. So you can zoom by county. So for instance, here in Franklin County, and it'll take you and zoom you into that county. And inside that county, you can see there's some more yellow. That's state-owned buildings. There's some green. And then you can actually zoom also, of course, by city. So we could go to Cleveland. And it'll take you up there and show you those properties. Or you can go by zip code. And so this takes us back to...
I mean, our hope is that, you know, there's folks in the private sector who, let's say they're looking for property in Northeast Ohio, they're looking for property in the Columbus area, they will go to this website. In addition to going to C.B. Richard Ellis, in addition to going to Collier's, they go to the state of Ohio and say, listen, we see that you own properties, we see that you own buildings here, you know, in Northeast Ohio, in Franklin County, Cuyahoga County, what have you, you know, we're interested in these properties. And essentially, you know, we can compete and put our properties in the market and hopefully generate revenue. Now listen, some of these properties might be utilized for good reasons, but I can guarantee you there are great opportunities for application of economies of scale and efficiency throughout our state government and definitely in our state properties and buildings. And that's the ultimate hope. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the folks in Oak Ridge. This is made possible not solely by my good team here in the Treasurer's Office, but definitely the folks in your organization. So thank you. And I don't know if these folks have questions, maybe they might direct some at you. I'd be remiss also if I didn't mention Frank LaRose, who's a state senator from the Akron area, represents Summit County, who was a leader in the legislature as far as making some of this possible.